Similarly, we find the word being used. Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ الْخَاسِرِينَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَهْلِيهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. The true losers are those who lost themselves and their families on the day of standing. That is the ultimate loss. So the real loss is not in this dunya, real loss is in the akhirah, the ultimate one. But nonetheless, there is loss taking place here also. But it's nothing compared to the loss that is coming. So because it's still loss, but not the ultimate loss, the word that is balanced and appropriate in this surah is إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. But we should never lose sight of the fact that in the end, Allah is talking to me like, somebody concerned about you talks to you, and somebody concerned about you gives you advice. Allah is giving you advice. And Allah is not talking about anybody else, He's talking about you and me. فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ. In it is your mention. Allah is talking about you. He's not talking about anyone else. When you keep this in mind, we learn something about this surah. Talking about it is very easy. Talking about this surah and its demands is very easy. Internalizing them is very difficult. Extremely difficult. Every single human being, in their head, they have an understanding of what it means to be successful. Every single human. Doesn't have to be Muslim. Every human being. There's something in your head that you consider success. And there are some people you look at and you don't even have to think about it. As soon as you see them, the thought that crosses your mind is, that guy's pretty successful. That one's pretty successful. Now religiously we can say, no, Jannah is success. Dunya is not success. We know that. I'm not talking about what you say. I'm talking about what goes on in your head. When you look at stuff. When you think about stuff. And kids are a lot more honest than we are, But we are learning something very, very radical in this surah. We are learning that all of these are not the measures of success or failure. Having a lot of wealth, having things that you want to aspire for, having them is no sign that you're successful, and not having them is no sign that you're a failure. They have nothing to do with success and nothing to do with failure. If somebody gets deported from a country, you would consider that a failure. It's pretty embarrassing and humiliating, isn't it? Was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam expelled, literally deported from Mecca? He was. If somebody doesn't have a home to live in, and they have to live out in the woods, you know how in between your developments here, there's some patch of woods, and some guy's living in those woods, you would call that a failure. That's pretty pathetic. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had to live in a cave for a stretched period, no food, no plate, eating off of shrubs. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The greatest example of success, and yet he's living, and if you saw somebody living like that today, you would not think success. That's not what would cross your mind. If somebody gets kicked out of their home, they become homeless, it's a failure. Ibrahim alayhi salam, does he get expelled from his home? He does. And yet, one of the greatest examples of success in human history. What are we learning from these examples? We're learning that the way we think about success and failure is not the way Allah wants us to think about success and failure.